Thanks for a very kind introduction. Yes, who really knows the business model canvas by heart? Anybody using it? Okay, that's fantastic because it's kind of interesting. It's an export good of Switzerland as well. It kind of emerged in 2001 and then got developed by Alex into a product. And the book came out in 2009. It's amazing because how in the world did we come up to have now tools or management tools which are now being used even in Silicon Valley? Because it was very simple. When I did my research from 97 to 2001, the big question was, can really the normal innovation frameworks explain what was happening, what was going on there? And people were talking about industry convergence. You remember the times when they were talking about the time industry, telecom, information, media, and entertainment industry will be one thing. It's because there's no conversion, there's something totally new happening, and it's not product innovation, it's something different. And I want to show you a case which is a little bit shocking because, I mean, these guys did everything wrong. That guy here invented the digital camera. That was in 1973. He had all the components. And actually the camera was, or the technology was so good that Apple, 10 years later, asked this company to provide the technology for the first Apple digital camera. And you probably know the company is called Kodak. So Kodak did everything right when it comes to product innovation. But what they didn't understand that the picture or digital picture is not just a substitution of a paper print. It needs a whole new business model because the quality of pictures are extremely bad. That was one of the first digital pictures ever being printed out. And as a top photographer, you would have probably thought, wow, that's not the future. Because resolution is lousy. But what they forgot is that with digital photography, totally new customer jobs to be done could be or emerged. Like in the past, pictures were about keeping memories. Now it's about sharing memories. As a friend of mine, he shares everything. He's the CTO of Drupal development, and he loves to share his pictures. And the other interesting part is once you have a technology, customers come up with ideas no sane person would have ever dreamed of, that people would put naked pictures of themselves on the web. And that's exactly what the problem is of Kodak, because they understood the traditional business very well, they understood the traditional customers very well, but they could not explain what was happening and going on there, because customers did totally different things with the picture. It's a whole new industry. It has nothing to do with the past. It's a new business model. The bad part is that even the professional photographers moved to digital camera. And that's not even an iPhone 6 picture, it's an iPhone 5 picture. And now you can, as a professional photographer, do artistic art with the iPhone. And I don't know who have seen it during the Olympics in London. There were some guys with the iPhone and they were taking better pictures of the competition and faster. That was the interesting part, is they were much faster because they took the picture and 5 seconds later it was published. Speed suddenly became important, not keeping memories but sharing memories. So a whole new area emerged. The bad part is you can't explain that with traditional innovation frameworks. And that happened to me in '99. I was wondering how in the world can I write a PhD about, what was it exactly? In the end, it was business model innovation in the digital economy, where we don't even have a framework to explain what was going on. Because it was not convergence, it was not product innovation, it was by far more. So what was it? In particular, some of the innovation are really strange. Would you invest in that company here? We do 100 million of sales with a margin that is much higher than today, and we just need 30 people to run the company and have 80% margin. Would you invest in that company? Sure you would. Unfortunately, something happened. As an incumbent, you would have not invested in that firm, because the big bubble is the market before Craigslist appeared. The little bubble is Greg's list. So business model innovation has a disruptive factor built into it, because your current or the incumbents don't love that. I mean, you don't want to shrink your business from 10 billion or 10,000 billion to 100 million. You don't want to shrink that business. If you're the entrepreneur, it's a fantastic business, and you do that. But that's the reason why we have so many failures of the incumbents. I'm not looking at you, Nigel, but Microsoft is so well entrenched with their traditional corporate customers that they love them. They invented everything. They had tablets, they had smartphones, but somehow they never got to the market because they could cannibalize certain businesses. If you don't have it past, the future looks most of the time pretty bright. Business model innovation are strange because for the incumbent, they're not good. Or would you have come up with this idea? I know how the future of advertising will look like. There are no pictures anymore, no videos, no colors, nothing. It's just plain 95 characters. In a marketing agency, they would shoot you. In a TV studio, they would shoot you for that. Do you know what this is? It's Google AdWords. Because nobody cares actually for multimedia enhanced advertising. The only reason why you put an advertising on is to get leads. And Google brought relevance back to the advertising market. And you just pay per click. When people are interested in it, you pay for it. It's a simple business model. And really focusing on the relevance. That's the reason why I liked really your presentation. It's about relevance, not the product. Give the people back relevance what they do. I have a presentation which is called Relevance. Giving and relevance, that's all. That's business model innovation in the end. And not looking at the past, what all you had in the as an incumbent. So to sum it up, there are new kinds, particularly through the digital revolution, but also because of globalization or the energy crisis we have. There's a new demand or new innovation popping up. It's called business model innovation. And they're strange, but they will change the way or the world we know today. And it's very important, a technology by itself does not create value. You always have to look at the business model because the product enables the business model and the business model creates the value. You always have to do that. And actually what I do quite often, and Norbert as well with me, is we look at technologies and try to figure out what kind of new businesses can be enabled with this. Because I don't care, actually I'm very close to computer science, but I don't care for the newest processor. What I'm looking at, what can I do different with that technology? So I'm not caring about IP protocols, I care about always on. Or think about if all lights suddenly have a sensor system in here. Because we know how many people are in this room because we can just calculate or just measure how many of your smartphones want to connect to the Wi-Fi. So I know how many people are in here. So the airing could be, or the air condition could be regulated by the amount of people are in the room. We measure that. It's easy once you understand where digital tools or thinking comes in. You see a lot of things will change. We call it now the Internet of Things. But that's not the interesting part. What does it mean, the Internet of Things, to your service? Like the emergency services. That will change dramatically because hopefully in the future there will be a little bit smarter the heating. So the heating can have predictive maintenance before they break. It's a long way, but we will see that. So the business model is decisive for value creation, it's not the technology. And the business model also gives us new boxes to think and innovate in. I really like the example from the emergency service, because actually it's a pretty easy idea. I'm a little bit surprised that it didn't come up earlier with this idea, because one of the core competencies in the car breakdown service is to run a service organization and to be good in fixing emergencies in a lot of different environments, because all cars are different. So they had a core competency, and the question was more or less how could they spread it. And they had a fantastic customer base where they could have a new value proposition and upselling. That's actually pretty easy, and therefore I think it's a great idea that they now implemented the idea. So what is a business model? Because once you understand what a business model is, you see also the starting point for innovation. Very simple. Most of the people think it's just a building plan, like a DNA of you. You have to restack your building plan, but what is important is the attitude in the end, how you approach business. So a business model is not just the building plan, but also it gives meaning to you and your employees and your customers. Why should customers love you? The relevance question. When was the last time somebody wowed you? Or was it just okay service? And a good business model should actually explain that as well. So what makes a good business model? I always like it when Alex now brought out his new book, because that was the weakest function in his business model, was always the value proposition. Because the value proposition is not the product, it's a promise. Because you have to know who your customers are and what excites them in the end. So then you have to fulfill it, that's the value architecture. You have to earn money, that's the revenue model. And you need a team and the values you pursue in that team. And they all have to work together. And it's very important that you don't look at products. You have to look at what the products can solve for the customer or what kind of customer job to be done by the business model. But still, industries thinks in their classical product way of thinking. Bosch, the division is called Power Tools. If you produce screws and dowels, you're in the metal processing industry. There are very proud unions there, IG Metall in Germany. But actually, customers do not care for power tools, screws and dowels. What they care for is hanging up a picture. And that's very important when you define a good value proposition, that you don't look at the product, because nobody needs a drilling machine or screw. All we want to do is just hang up a picture. It's the job to be done. And I don't understand too much about your pension system. I read it a little bit before, because otherwise I would have been totally lost about super something. But you created so much complexity by allowing each person to have an individual plan, that handling that is almost impossible. So quite often, actually, boring businesses are perfect, because you just do the unpleasant part of paying or making the settlement actually in the paying process. Yes, it's not sexy. It's not like investing or asset management, but it solves the problem of the people. And once you got them connected on your system, it makes their life easier. That's exactly what customers want. It's not always get too excited, but what they want is just get a job done. Make my life easier, because not too many people think pension business is a very sexy business. They should actually think about it, but it's too far off in the future. So it's very important that we don't look at the product, we look at the job to be done, because customers hire a product or service to get a job done. And when you take this approach to the drilling machine, you see suddenly a lot of potential competitors, which is a hammer and nail, power strips by Tesa, or a friend with a drilling machine. So the biggest challenge probably for all the power tool manufacturers is the sharing economy. Because suddenly people share their stuff. They would have never thought about that. But probably it's a bigger deal. So if you design a good business model, again, products, services don't make happy customers. The product has to solve a customer problem or job to be done. The value proposition of your business model addresses the customer problem, and the value proposition is delivered later on by the whole business model. It's not just the product. If you have the worst call center in your life, or a sales channel doesn't work, you can have the best product and you can't fulfill your value proposition. So unfortunately, we always have to go all the way around. So what is a good business, or what is a value proposition? Very simple, we can rush through it. It's your customer, what job you solve for your customer, then what value do you create from, or benefit you create from. And in a lot of cases, it's also important that you have a value proposition for your partner, the most important supplier of you. Think about Napster. That had a fantastic value proposition for the end customer, but nothing for the music industry. And you kill them. And quite often, when I look at your business model, it's very simple. You need a good value proposition to get really good servicemen. Because it's not the money question. It's about this pride to be in your organization. And that it was interesting when you looked at the advertising. That was not for customers only, but it was internal as well. People are proud to work for you and do something good. Because that is really what you showed is, yes, we leave or we help somebody before we do some official stuff and go for a job interview. I really liked it. I think it's a little bit even more into that film than you in the beginning thought. But it's a good advertising for your people, why you should really work for you. Because your business model depends on the service quality. And that is not delivered by a call center only. It's the people there. So once you decided what's your value proposition, you have to deliver it. You need a product or offer. You need distribution and communication channels. You need a value chain to produce it. In that value chain, you have to decide what you do by yourself with your own core competencies, or what are the partners you have to get the whole product being done. Then, of course, a revenue model. Unfortunately, you can't do it too much about the cost anymore, because the cost is more or less designed by the blue part, the value architecture. The more partner you outsource to your partners, the lower the fixed costs are, and the variable costs, of course, usually go up. But it's great to look at your revenue sources. What do you really charge for? And what most people forget, businesses are humans. If you have a factory and you take all the humans out, it's a factory, an empty building. The humans make the difference. And also, if you want to change a business, you can't have a strategy team coming in, designing the new business model, and then you have change management. You have to explain early to the people why they have to change. And I did quite a lot of change projects in field service management, so I know a little bit of your area. And it's interesting that we cut salaries by 20%, and the employees even said, yes, we understand why. Because we did not cut them, we took them very early into the process and analyzed together with them why their salary level was double as much per hour than of our competitors. So we didn't come up with the analysis as a manager. It was the whole team, including field service technician, suddenly figuring out this can't be the future because we are overpaid for what we can deliver. So getting this engagement is extremely important in business model innovation. So teams and values, who's in your team or who is our team and what are the values we share. You can put it on a canvas, you have that here. Because what is interesting is they're all connected. So what we always forget, you can't change one part, it's the whole changes it. It's a holistic approach, the business model canvas. And what's the business model innovation? Is killing your competitor softly, meaning he doesn't even know when he's dead. And that happens exactly in the moment in certain industries. I mean, Microsoft, sorry, you sit here. I mean, they should have been the leader in smartphone business, but they're out of the business. Now they fight back. I mean, they bought Nokia, but still didn't help them. It's Android versus iPhone. And yeah, when they really fought back by buying Nokia, it was too late. And it was by far too late for Nokia as well. So, because business model innovation is not playing by the rules. So if you attack as a small competitor, and as an incumbent, you are the big guys, you're the small one, you attack. If you play by the rules, you lose. So a good sport to beat these big guys is, for example, ballet dancing. By not even accepting that, because most of the people say like, oh, we do sumo ring. No, you can do ballet dancing with the others, and then suddenly a large corporation looks really silly, because then from a big guy, you're just a tiny guy. So innovation can start at any point of your business model canvas. And quite often it's pretty ridiculous, like hiring motor or process engineers into a hospital. That's what Irvine hospitals did. They even put several patients in a surgery at the same time. Unheard of. It's against all laws, actually, but the KPIs are excellent when it comes to infection rates. Not a big revolution, but charging maintenance per, or your jet engine per hour of operation. It's not revolutionizing the business, but actually it is. Because now airlines just pay when they use the engine. Because airlines usually don't have that much money, so you have a leasing company who's doing it in the background. I'm taking Google not because of the products, but they have a policy that one day a week an engineer can spend on a pet project. Just what he wants. Usually they put their effort in other pet projects, and a lot of good ideas actually happen there. It's a cultural innovation, it's not technology. And in the end, your business model has to wow your customers. And even in boring services, you can wow customers. I work for banks quite a lot, but they are too reluctant actually to accept it, that yes, they always want to make things more complicated instead of making it easier, because there's a huge reason why we have banks. Let's make it even more personalized, more customer-centric. So business model innovation is not about technology, it's about being loved by your customers because you have a great value proposition which you deliver later on with your business model. What is extremely important is your classical strategic planning processes are linear, and you put more effort into it to prove that your business case will work. Instead of saying, we look at it like designers. And designers usually don't start by knowing the answer. They try to understand what is being good for. So a right business model process, or how we call it rethinking business, is about opening your mind, going out and taking a look at what customers really need. And I'm a big advert, or sorry, the wrong word probably, I hate surveys. Why surveys? Because surveys pretend certain things. And I usually ask this, do you know what this is? This is a sugar bag. The guys who were yesterday with me don't do the exercise. How do you open this? Do hand movement. How do you open this? Yeah, 100% sure. Right? Do it again. I'm 100% sure? Yeah. That's an interesting part, because you are sure in any survey say, yes, that's like what I want. But what you actually do, I don't want to throw it at you, is you do this first, and then you do this. Because people don't know exactly what they want, but if you observe them, you see it. Yep. If I throw it at you, you would do immediately this, and then you open it. That's the difference between observation, customer insights, versus surveys. And that's like why I liked some of your statements, because the statements are more interesting than your figures. But of course, we need KPIs nowadays. I know this. But be aware what they can hide. So business model innovation, or the rethinking business approaches, open your mind, focusing what is really important for your customer. It's design thinking, develop a point of view, then go into solutions, and then decide later on what you really want to build. And you also got the process on the back. Really start not with the solution, but understanding the problem and the drivers in the industry. Like, what are the technologies which will help you to make a difference? So, 4 takeaways before I get killed for being a little bit too long. Really introduce business model thinking in your company that you understand, and jobs to be done in your strategic planning. So people are so product-oriented. Don't think in products. What are the job you solve for your products, with your products? Because with that, you start unlearning. And that is the most difficult part, actually, because we can't unlearn. Young people, I do a lot of university teaching. Actually, teaching is something totally easy compared to get something what you have learned over the last 20 years in your head to get out of your head, because there's not a button which we can push. That's the reason why incumbents are so fantastic customers. It takes so long to unlearn. I get frustrated, but it's good business. And also spend, I say, 50% of your time, not money, on business model innovation. Because it's a time business to find innovation. It's not a money game. A lot of people always say we have to throw money at it. No, you have to invest time. And I can assure you, in a large corporation, it's easier to get 10 million bucks from your CEO than a full day of attention for one issue. But you need this full day of attention. Thanks God, I had a perfect boss at Swisscom, which is the Telstra of Switzerland. He loved investing time in things. And we came up with a lot of crazy ideas. So in the end, you have to implement a new strategic planning process, which is more like design thinking plus the boxes. But be aware you have to be very brave to do that, because once you believe that you have a good idea, which is not the norm, you're like the snail. You stick out of the crowd, you get hit. Accept it. And I would like to close with that. In the end, just do it. It's easy said, a little bit more difficult done.
So we have some time for some questions. If you'd like to ask Patrick a question, stump Patrick.
I think we will have it with the coffee then.
Yes,
or...
no.
Oh, that's a good one, thanks.
Who you are and where you're from, sorry.
Oh, so Debbie, I'm from NRMA. Question about your the Craigslist. So the market size was tenfold when it came to Craigslist comes in. It's much smaller. So it's actually dynamically changed the whole industry. You're the incumbent. Yes, you may not want that to happen, but how do you either, of course, protect against it, or how do you make it so that it does work? Maybe maintain that or change it yourself?
I mean, history tells us that quite often get out of a business is the only way how it works. That's the reason why newspapers have such a problem, is because they think they are in one business, but actually there are three businesses held together by paper. And you can't change the turning of the world. So the question, and particularly newspapers is interesting because they never earned money with the reader. The reader market never gave them the money. The contribution margin was ridiculously low, actually zero, when you take subscription and delivery into it and printing. They never earned money. They earned money with things you don't need content for anymore. So it's not Google which kills the newspapers, the unbundling of the business model. But if you talk to newspaper people, they don't see themselves in three businesses. And they always say, they have the past. I have no solution for the newspaper industry. But probably it's like more asking your readers and say, like, you never paid for the content, but we need money for good journalism. Are you willing to pay something? But take a look how difficult it is today to spend or just give them $10 because you like an article. It's impossible. Because they don't make it easy for you to give them money. Because they are in the subscription world.
Is there another question? No hands going. Can we thank Patrick?